Welcome to this explainer. You know, back in the 1960s, if you broke the rules in society, well, they sent you to prison. But if you broke the rules in prison, they sent you to Alcatraz. It was the ultimate, inescapable fortress, perched right on a desolate rock out in the middle of San Francisco Bay. And for decades, it was considered entirely, literally impossible to beat. That is, until three men did the unthinkable, leaving behind one of the most brilliant, baffling, and hotly debated mysteries in human history. Okay, let's dive into this. 36. Over its 29-year history as a federal penitentiary, 36 men tried to break out of this fortress. Most were quickly caught. Some were shot by the guards. And the rest? They drowned in the attempt. The stakes for even thinking about escaping were absolute life and death. And the house always won. And this number explains exactly why those attempts failed so badly. 1.5. That is the distance in miles of freezing, shark-infested waters and punishing riptides that separated the island from the mainland. The prison was just completely cut off from the rest of the world. All of this sets the stage for the morning of June 12, 1962, when guards walked right up to cell block B and discovered that three men had somehow vanished into thin air. Section 1. The inescapable fortress, the ultimate target. To truly appreciate this heist, we really have to frame Alcatraz as the ultimate target. This wasn't just a building with guards, right? The architecture and the environment acted as a weapon itself against the inmates. Just imagine the sheer pressure of existing in this environment. The walls aren't standard issue. They're made of hardened concrete. The bars are specially forged tool-proof steel. And think about the psychological toll of enduring up to 12 roll calls a day. 12. There are constantly eyes on you. Every single movement is tracked, and every sound is monitored. Section 2. The masterminds, a very specific crew. Now, what's really interesting about this is to even attempt to bypass a system this perfect, you need a very, very specific crew. Notice the perfect synergy of their skill sets here. You have Frank Morris, a master escape artist with an IQ reportedly in the top 2% of the population. He's the brains, he's the strategist. And then you pair his genius-level intellect perfectly with the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence. They were seasoned bank robbers used to high-stakes situations, but more importantly for this specific job, they were expert swimmers. This quote is absolutely critical to understanding their plan. Breaking out of Alcatraz didn't require guns or explosives. It required extreme, almost superhuman patience. And it's true. This heist was completely unique. It wasn't a violent, split-second smash and grab. It relied entirely on time, intellect, and sheer willpower rather than blunt force. Section 3. The ultimate DIY project, a massive preparation. This is where the story gets incredibly exciting, because the massive preparation phase for this escape started in the most claustrophobic space imaginable, right behind a tiny 6x9-inch ventilation vent at the back of their cells. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate David versus Goliath mismatch. On the left, we've got the impenetrable defenses of the rock, hardened concrete and steel. On the right, the inmates' actual arsenal, stolen cafeteria spoons, a discarded saw blade, and a drill they literally invented by strapping a stolen vacuum cleaner motor to a metal rod. I mean, seriously, ask yourself, how would you even begin to break concrete with cafeteria spoons? It requires a level of resourcefulness that is almost unbelievable. Try to picture the excruciating tension of this process. For 6 full months, they chipped away at those concrete walls. But they couldn't just dig whenever they wanted, no. They worked only during a single hour of the day when another prisoner played the accordion to mask the scraping noise. And to hide their super slow progress, they painted fake grates onto pieces of cardboard and wedged them into the widening holes whenever the guards walked by. Once those holes were big enough, they squeezed through into a dark, unguarded utility corridor that became their secret workshop. But getting out of the building was just the beginning. They still had to survive the freezing bay. Look at these brilliant engineering steps. They managed to steal over 50 canvas raincoats. Using the hot steam pipes in the corridor, they vulcanized the rubber, carefully stitching and gluing it all together to build a 6x14-foot inflatable raft and life preservers. Section 4. A masterpiece of deception, buying precious time. Remember those 12 roll calls a day we talked about? Yeah. If they made a break for it and a guard noticed they were missing during a night check, the alarms would blare before they even reached the shoreline. Everything would be ruined. So they needed to buy time. Look at the creepy but genius dedication on this list of ingredients. Using soap, Toilet paper, concrete dust, and flesh-colored paint from the prison art shop, they sculpted incredibly realistic dummy heads. But the absolute masterstroke? They went to the prison barbershop, swept up real human hair from the floor, and glued it right onto the dummies. In the dim lighting of the cell block, they looked perfectly like sleeping men. Section 5. Into the freezing void. Executing the heist. The preparation is complete, the ticking clock has started, and the execution of the heist is underway. There is no turning back now. It's the night of June 11. They tuck those dummy heads into their beds, patting down the blankets to look like sleeping shoulders. They crawl through the ventilation holes for the very last time. In the utility corridor, they climb up a network of pipes to the roof, pry open a ventilator shaft, and slip into the foggy night. From there, they slide 50 feet down a bakery smokestack, climb a 12-foot barbed wire fence, and finally reach the water. At 10 p.m. sharp, they inflate their makeshift raft using a stolen concertina, which is like a small accordion, and launch into the brutal, pitch-black currents pulling toward the Golden Gate Bridge. And then comes the shocking moment of discovery. The next morning, a guard walks the tier and bangs on Frank Morris's cell to wake him up. No movement. The guard reaches through the steel bars and pokes the pillow. The head rolls off the bed and just smashes into pieces onto the floor. Well, all hell instantly broke loose, sirens wailed, and one of the largest manhunts in FBI history began. The bay was swarming with search boats and helicopters. But despite this massive effort, look at the sparse items left behind. A single floating paddle, 2 deflated life jackets, and a plastic bag containing a few of the Anglin brothers' personal photos. That's it. The men themselves were completely gone. Section 6. The enduring mystery. Where is the evidence? The aftermath of this escape is honestly just as captivating as the planning, so let's take a completely impartial, investigative look at where the evidence actually points. On one hand, we have the official FBI stance, which draws the logical conclusion that the men drowned in those freezing, violent waters. And given the extreme elements, it's a very scientifically sound outcome. However, on the other hand, we have these fascinating pieces of survival evidence that keep the debate alive today. No bodies were ever recovered. We have alleged credible sightings of the Anglin brothers in Brazil decades later, mysterious postcards sent to their families, and modern computer models proving that if they timed the tides exactly right, they absolutely could have survived. So, the crucial point is, they beat Alcatraz. Whether they made it to the mainland or not, they accomplished what everyone said was literally impossible, using nothing but spoons, old raincoats, and their own minds. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to take away from this explainer today. Did they drown in the dark waters of the bay, or did they completely vanish into a new life? We may never know for certain, but their ingenuity will absolutely never be forgotten. Thanks for diving into this with me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.